Welcome to the Sound Mind Strategy Podcast with your host, Evan.
And Anina Blankenship.
This podcast is aimed to be an in-depth discussion between husband and wife power couple where we take on challenging topics in the mental health and wellness arena.
By trade and training, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, certified professional coactive coach, USA Cycling National Champion, and I love to push my limits both physically and mentally.
As for me, I am currently in a master's program for sport and performance psychology, where I'm also on track to become a certified mental performance consultant. I've also been coaching athletes for the last 5 years, helping them reach their truest potential.
We're both very passionate about athletic performance, mental skills training, spirituality, and we love to take a holistic approach to helping people find harmony in their mind, body, and spirit.
We believe that there's greatness inside of everyone. Our mission and the mission of this podcast is to help you unlock and operate within yours.
Hello, and welcome back or welcome to the Sound Mind Strategies podcast. I am your host today, Anina, and I have been given the opportunity today to interview my co-host and husband, Evan, today. So as you all know, I was in the hot seat last week getting asked a multitude of questions, and so now it's my turn to fire them off to Evan this week. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, Evan. So first off, I know a couple people have asked me, what is it that really drew you to sports psychology? Out of all the other careers you could have chosen, you were at the railroad for 10 years. You've talked about business, in the past, pursuing that. What led you to pursuing your master's in sports psychology?
Well, yeah. So I guess just to kind of give a little back history. So it started out just right out of high school. College was not for me. I was going to prove to the world that I could figure it all out on my own. I just had this idea that I just had this mind planned, and I don't know where that came from. I really didn't have anything going. I think I was just so done with school. I don't know. I didn't have necessarily a hard time. I just didn't like it. I just didn't do it. So I really put off any schooling after high school. So it just kind of worked out great because my brother was in the military, and then he was much older too. He was 7 years older, I guess quite a bit, when you're growing up. 7 years is a long time. So I really looked up to him a lot and really appreciated a lot of the things that he was doing. Like, I really wanted to prove myself to him, like that I could do the things he did. I was really into the sports that he was into. Athletics was a big part of my life growing up. Also, my dad was an amazing athlete. Like, probably could have gone very far with his athletics if he would have chose. He just chose self-employment and career instead of sport. So, but anyway, he definitely instilled sport in all of his kids. So just to kind of fast forward into that, like I went to the military right away, and because that was an avenue that my brother took, and it was really something that he impressed upon me that I needed to do. And so from there, we served in Iraq overseas, and came back, and I really didn't have a big idea of what I wanted to do. It was just like, okay, maybe I'll just continue with this military thing and see where it goes. And a friend of mine who was through high school and lived down the road and everything, and his dad was also in the National Guard, but outside of that, he worked for the railroad. And I was like, I think I could do this. Like, I know he explained everything, that it was kind of hard to get on with the railroad. Like, they really like to hire people that they know. So like you have to have known someone that has worked there. They really did like military people because they were disciplined and followed good structure and everything. So to kind of fast forward all that, like I ended up getting on working there for about 10 years, and I knew I did not want to do that. It was not the career for me.
Sure.
So I started going back to school, started doing some online courses at local community college and everything. And it came time to the point it was like, okay, I have the associates done. I got to figure something out. I had explored everything. I was going to go into nursing. I was going to go into business. I was going to go into marketing, accounting.
Yeah, I remember that. Just kind of like trying to figure it out. Like, what are my next steps? I don't know. So maybe this will be my calling. It just...
I could see how they would all work.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I wasn't necessarily great at any of them, and I could kind of make myself fit into the mold of all of them.
Yeah. But looking back, it's like you weren't even passionate about any of
those. No. It was just a means to an end. It was a means to end the railroad and a way to make money in the future. They secure job source and everything. So then I stumbled upon sports psychology. And I knew I loved sport, exercise, anything that had to do with the body and progressing and getting better, finding that next level. That was kind of something that was always very passionate for me. And then came the mental side of it. You know, like, well, what makes a good athlete great? Is it physiology or psychology? So it was something really that I started to explore, just kind of my own self-led learning. And through a couple, like I was racing bikes at that time, and through a couple friends of mine that were also cyclists and everything, they were sports psychologists in that field. You know, some were counseling, some were sports psychology. They kind of had their own route that they had taken to end up in sports psychology. And through a few conversations with them, it was like, you know, I really think that this is something I can do. It's something that really resonates with me. Like
what was it about it that really resonated with you?
I think it was just that level of getting in touch and in tune with an athlete, to really assist them in their development. You know, like a lot of the times they knew what to do on the training aspect. You know, they knew how to push the body, whether they were in the gym lifting weights or they were running or cycling or whatever.
Right.
Ball sports, anything.
It was just more the mental side, right? That would sometimes hang them
so
up.
it's like, what makes them stay after practice to shoot the extra free throws or to push harder on the set of intervals, or what makes that athlete great? So a lot of it came down to like a lot of the mental practice, you know, the self-talk, how they manage their time, how they manage their anxiety or their energy, you know, how they set goals, how they communicated with people around them on their team, or if it's an individual sport, there's still kind of a team of people, you know, like the other coaching staff or family, even for that matter, because
right.
you know, that's all within their network of people. So that's something that really kind of lit me up, and to be a support system for greatness, I think was something that really excited me. As an athlete, I was never destined for greatness, I don't think. Like, I kind of knew some of the limitation of my physiology. I knew there's always, you know, you can push the limits and boundaries of that, but I didn't possess the skill to be a professional. I came to the sport a little late.
Did you, though? Do you think if you would have had a sports psychologist at the time, as you were coming into the sport, do you think things would have been different?
Yeah, they would have. They would have been different. But I still don't think I possessed the physical attributes to have been where I had aspired to be a professional. At that time, kind of when I came in 10 or so years ago, I kind of came in when you kind of had already needed to be breaking into that upper echelon.
Sure.
And I was like just learning how to do things. So I don't know. There's always the one-offs of like they come in late and they're just a phenom in the sport, and I didn't necessarily possess those attributes. So, but yes, absolutely. If I would have had this information and the help of a sports psychologist, yeah, I mean, I probably could have done way different. And
yeah. And so I'm curious, like, what did you go through in your life that really shaped things for you as far as in your own personal experience, seeing how the mental side of things can really be a benefit to you? I mean, pushing the body, it seems like it was something that was never, that difficult for you. I mean, it came easier, I'd say, but where was the mental part? Where did you have to do some of the mental training on your own accord?
As an athlete,
yeah.
A lot of that came because I knew I was a little bit better, I think, than where I started, than others that I had started with. I was always kind of in that upper tier of the category that I was in for the first few years, I would say. But where I really had to do the mental training was really not until I had reached like a category 2, and more specifically, it wasn't until the hit and run accident I was involved in. That is when, and I was in my undergrad at this time at Lindenwood, doing exercise science, kind of already on the track knowing that I was going to go to sports psychology, but I was wanting people to like excel and be the best that they very could.
Yeah. So kind of walk us through like what you had to do to push through it.
Here I am. I'd been in the hospital for 5 days, broken leg, 5 broken ribs, and wanting to come back to the sport and compete where I was or better. And what I really had to do was the things that got me the most, that what I put the most amount of work in on the psychology side was imagery, visualization, and self-talk. Those were the 3 main things that I would do when I was sitting on my bike on the trainer, recovering with zero tension on it, just turning my legs over, having just recovered from surgery. I was visualizing myself in a race and winning races and putting my hands in the air.
Yeah. How often were you doing this? These visualizations?
Every day I was on the bike, every single day, the whole time, the whole ride. Like I would, at this time, Les Brown was, if anyone's familiar with Les Brown, if you're not, you should be. He just really like kind of lit that fire in me. And, just all that motivation, and I would be able to internalize that, and I would be able to see myself raising my hands, crossing the finish line. I would see myself victorious. I would see myself better than I've ever been. Like I didn't know how I was going to do it. Like I hadn't really won a lot of races pre-injury. So somehow I'm going to have to do all this post-injury,
right.
Plate in the knee, everything else,
So it's sounding like the visualization and also the motivational speaking too that you heard was really, with those two coupled together, really helped you along and speeding up even perhaps your recovery, would you say?
I think so. Yeah, I would definitely say that we have no idea if it sped it up, but I definitely feel like I had a really, really quick recovery.
Even the doctors said that, right? They were like,
yeah,
this is
they were
very
definitely
quick recovery.
very impressed with the speed of recovery, which, I highlight that to a few different things, but definitely the psychology side, because I would actually spend not the whole time would I do winning races. There would be another big portion of the time where I would be visualizing bone growing and muscles growing back and tendons growing. I would be visualizing these things happening in my body. And I anecdotally speaking, I really, really feel like that kind of stuff sped up my recovery and healing process.
Yeah. And was there a certain race that you were playing out in your mind that you were winning and doing really well in?
Yeah, I had targeted a stage race that a good friend of mine had gone and done, and it had kind of been like one of those races that kind of just always seemed to get away from him. He never could pull off the big W on it, but I had done very well there several times. I had gone to support him. And so it had also been kind of almost in a way through transference, I guess, had become like my passion too.
Yes.
Like I really developed a love for this event and wanted to go and try and do my very best there. And I was a little unsure on how I could do in the biggest event, but I went in like the second tier, event, and I didn't win the overall because it's comprised over a few different events, but I was very happy with my result. I finished second overall.
Yeah, it's huge.
The really cool part for me was like, I knew I'd win that time trial. That's the race I was winning, the uphill time trial, because that really sets the tone for that whole event.
Yes, it does.
You can, the road races play themselves out. The criterium kind of plays itself out. It's basically a don't lose time on those events, where the race is kind of won
in that time trial,
in
right.
the time trial in a roundabout way.
On that.
And I was 8th. I'm like, oh gosh, it's over. The top 10's great, but like, I didn't win.
So in your mind, it was kind of like, this is over? Or
no,
what?
And that was the cool thing, because like, I don't mean to be rude, but the fat lady hadn't sang, like it wasn't, it just wasn't over.
Yeah.
I knew I had 2 more shots. There's 3 events. There's the TT, the road race, and the criterium. And in the road race, I had a couple teammates. I had a few teammates there. Unfortunately, one guy was not feeling good. He was kind of sick or had been sick for a week or so coming into it, and his form was, iffy. And 2 other guys, strong guys with me, and I knew they would. Even the guy who had been sick, I know he would give me everything he could.
Right.
We come into the road race, and like, I had these guys helping as much as they could, and I was like, I got to do this. This is on me.
Is that kind of what was going through your mind? Like,
yeah.
What was going through your mind?
Yeah, I had a teammate up the road, and everything slowed down. Like, I could see, like, we're still 30-ish, 40 miles from the finish, and I saw it play out. Like, I knew exactly, if this, then this, if that, then this. And it was just the perfect sequence of events. Like, coming up to this nice little rise, I had a teammate up the road and a couple guys that were kind of bridging up to him, and I attacked up that climb, and I knew it would just be this odd sequence of events as guys were coming back and I was going forward, that people would kind of like get lost in the shuffle. And I ended up drawing out like 5 other guys. So it's now 6 of us up the road, ahead, a break. I get, if people are unfamiliar with cycling, and we're driving the pace, and now a friend of mine, and we didn't really know each other too well, but I knew him well enough to know he's really, really strong. And we're all trading turns, rotating and pulling in the wind, and we're all kind of like, come on, help out. And he goes, no, I got a teammate that's, right behind you in time, so I'm not going to help you. So we kind of chatted a little bit, and I said, well, hey, once we get like a 1 minute of a gap on the main peloton, then will you start working? Because at that point, now you're in the lead. Right. He goes, yeah, if we hit a minute, I'll help. So, we're all kind of giving it our all, knowing that we're
full gas,
going for the line, and
Yeah.
so we did it and got there, and I hadn't recovered enough, I guess, from the injury because it came down to a sprint, and I had recovered a lot of my strengths, but the sprint had not come back yet. So I kind of got dunked on in the sprint, but I was happy. I was, I think, fourth on the day there, and was enough to kind of move me up a couple spots. So now I'm sitting third overall. And then in the criterium the next day, I was able to gain some time on second place guy, and who was then second. So that him and I switched. So I was now second place at the very finish, and so winning the big race, kind of eluded me, but it's still kind of been a target, but haven't. So what were
like the major takeaways for you for this? Like, what did you learn about yourself, or
if
what
you
did you
do the work,
with?
It pays off. I mean, you have to be physically on point. You have to do the work physically. You can do all the work mentally you want, but it's not going to make all the physical changes that you need. You can't just spend all the time doing that. So you have to train. But then you also have to train the mind. You have to rest. You have to eat well. I mean, it's a complete package. But I think when people think about training for sport or really anything,
think about the physical side a lot, right?
They kind of hit the big pillars, the physical training, the rest, the nutrition. If they're high level athletes, they generally know rest, nutrition, and training. But I think there's a big piece that they often miss is the mental game, is the mental skills work. So
so it sounds like too a big piece of this, like leading you into figuring out like sports psychology was a passion of yours. If I would just say is, even going through this hit and run too really showed you the value of what a sports psychologist can bring to just aiding you in the recovery and just the whole entirety of the process, right?
Oh yeah, it was huge because that whole incident of my hit and run really, really highlighted a big part of it because it was like, oh, rehab's cool, but that's for somebody else, and it really showed me that that's a huge part of it. And now I have rapport with people who will or have dealt with serious injury. I've been there. I've done that, you can come back. I mean, there's obviously some things that happen that you just won't be able to come back. I mean, an actual physical limitation, we can't just say mental skills training just replaces all physical abilities or inabilities or changes. But there's some things that sports psychology, counseling, coaching, it's huge. It's vital for people to come back from.
Yeah. And what types of people or what types of athletes would typically use a sports psychologist, or is it just in any gamut? I mean, it can come from kids who are, in middle school all the way on up, or is there a certain population or a certain type of athlete that a sports psychologist will work with, or is it just anybody that wants to?
Yeah, sports psychology is really neat in that regard because when you say sports psychology, I think often there's a big part of it too is sport and performance psychology. So yes, it spans the entire realm of sport. Whether you're an individual athlete, a team, or in team athletics, if you are on a field, a court, a diamond, endurance, gymnastics, anything. But then even beyond that, there's sport and performance psychologists that are working with high performing business people. So if they're in a really high stress environment, high pressure environment, in the business industry, Michael Gervais is probably one that comes to mind mostly because he's worked with Felix Baumgartner, who did the stratosphere jump.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that's athletic or not, I think it is. I think it definitely.
Say so.
I don't know how much of an athlete it takes to I mean, we say jump, but it kind of drop, at that level. But there's some physical stuff that goes through that. But then he also works with the Seattle Seahawks. But then he also works with like Boeing, and
covers
people,
such a large gamut.
and people within that industry. So, and another big component of who sports psychologists work with are military personnel or lead operators in that realm, whether it's like SWAT or police or military or CIA, whatever. There's a lot that goes into that. Like they are tactical athletes. Much of their training is very similar to athletics, but there's a whole nother part of it. They are putting their life on the line. There's a huge part of that think about the anxiety that they might have versus like the anxiety like an athlete might have in a top level football game or basketball game, a championship game. But how much more is the stressful environment of like every single op or mission that they go on? How much greater is that than a Super Bowl? Even if it's just hey, we got to go check doors and walk the streets in Baghdad. So that's a huge part. So to me, as a military person, like that's something that I really hold near and dear to me, and I really value the work to be done with military people.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. My next question for you was: is there a population that you would ideally like to work with someday, or is it just anyone that wants your help? It's like all game, or is there?
That's an interesting question because obviously you got to make money, right? So you kind of got to be open until your name gets out, until you're having to turn away business because things are so well. And I definitely aspire to that and definitely want to do that. But I see opportunity in so many areas. Like I really see opportunity in relationships, working with families. I think especially with you and your specialties, and a lot of the foundational principles that you and I share in our two paths, that and we just have a unique bond where I think we could be very impactful with relationships, within marriages or friends or even family, just all the different the bonds there.
So kind of not necessarily the sports side of things, but more of the relationship
it could just be a relationship, because I think at the heart of all athletics and all issues there, it's down to relationships. The athlete has to trust the coach.
So true.
The coach has to trust the management or any of the other workings within that organization. We kind of forget that these are very large organizations, whether it's collegiate level or professional level.
Yeah.
But for me personally, who I really aspire to work with is I would love an opportunity to work with military people, like some of the elite operators, the Navy SEALs and those kind of, just to know that I'm supporting those that support me in this country and the freedoms that we get to,
Yeah, what a way to give back, right?
Yeah,
That's incredible.
And high performing athletes, like to be able to be on the sideline and watch the team that you help, win the Super Bowl or an NBA title or a cycling race, win some of the biggest races, the Tour de France or some of the big spring classics. Like to me, I think if I were to narrow down sport, I have a passion for cycling. So that's where my heart naturally goes for sport. And watching you come up through the sport and some of the things that you've done, I really have a heart for women's cycling. That's kind of, unfortunately, it's been this way that women's cycling has kind of been like the last of the Mohicans to support women.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot better. I think every year it seems to get better and better, but it's almost just like at the beginning of the year, that early year when they start releasing everything, you're like, come on, guys, you could have done better. But, I think to just support them, that would be huge for me, to just rally behind some of the best women in the country or in the world for that matter. Military personnel, relationships. I'd be open for anybody because, and even if they're not professional, like even if it's just someone who wants to do their very best in a local event, it doesn't even have to be a race. It could just be, I want to perform my very best for this event in July because it means something to me.
Yeah, which is huge because it sounds like you spread across a wide gamut of people and seeing that there's a need in a lot of different disciplines and not just being narrowly focused into one thing, which I think really helps, broaden and deepen your ability to be there for others as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from just my belief is in that, like, I believe that there's greatness inside of everyone.
Yeah.
Whether you're performing at the Tour de France or you're running a 5K, your first local 5K, there's greatness inside of everyone. And you might not have the big earth-shattering, what's the word I'm looking for? Impact as an athlete, but you have an impact.
Yeah.
So don't limit yourself because you have greatness inside of you through some venture. And you might not have the same level of impact in terms of number, but the impact that you have on individuals is humongous.
Yeah.
Don't limit yourself. So I might not reach the people that a Tony Robbins or a Les Brown impact, but I'm not going to take away the impact that I have on people, even if it is a smaller number, because that's still valuable. I can still shape and change lives with the impact that I have and the giftings that I've been given.
Yeah, and I really appreciate how you say, we all have greatness within us, because I think that's so true. And I'm curious as to what would you say are some of the great qualities that you have within you?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't like these questions. They're challenging. It's like, if I say this, are they going to think that he's full of himself? I don't know. I just think I can bring humor into a lot of things. Like a lot of times where I just feel like situations are really heavy. And I want to respect some situations. They kind of need to be heavy and somber a little bit, but I like to bring an uplift when I can. I like to support. So I'm very supportive of people.
Mm-hmm. You can bring some humor into situations.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of valuable in itself. Like sometimes it gets overlooked by being a clown, and I don't want to just be a clown, but I'm empathetic. I'm very sensitive to people on how they're feeling, and I think empathy and sympathy kind of get messed up, like misinterpreted a lot, and I really find that empathy is something that, one, it needs to be practiced, but two, it's like, we really need to spend more time being empathetic instead of sympathetic. Instead of like, oh, I feel bad for you, or oh man, that must suck. It's like, I'm gonna get down. You're in that hole. That's terrible. I mean, you're in a hole, but I'm gonna get down in that hole with you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
alongside you.
I'm gonna, feel what you're feeling, but I'm also going to get you out, I'm not going to just pull you out. I'm going to get down there and love on you and care for you, but then we're going to get out together, So I think
it's a great quality.
I think just kind of the marriage of those two, knowing when to lift up and be lighthearted, and then knowing when to just be in there with them and just feel it with them, So I think those are some of my better qualities. I might not be the smartest guy in the room. I might not be the most articulate guy in the room, but I think just like having a heart for people, I think that's one of my biggest qualities. I have a big heart, and I just love to love on people.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I can even feel the very, the real sentiment here coming forth from you, and that it really is a very honest reflection of how you feel about yourself. And like you said, sometimes it's hard for us, right, to acknowledge some of the things that we're good at or great at or whatever. But it's
tough.
It is. And it's kind of what that inner voice is telling us, that what are people going to think?
Do you feel that is like a society thing? Like, do you think it's more like we're trained that way, like whether it's through family or social media or society or how we were raised, where we were raised, or is that like an internal thing of like shining on yourself?
I'd say yes, and I think it's that, and I think it's a multitude of those factors, and I think a lot of times, we feel like I can say, yeah, I'm good at this, but I kind of suck over in this area. So it kind of gives us like a way to like, I'm not that great kind of thing. And I think it's a way just to kind of a way we've gotten used to, at least for me anyways, to deflect the things that I am good at. Cause I don't want to look like I'm bragging or I'm being boastful or whatever. And it's like, no, why can't I say those things about myself and be fully confident in it? And the people that love me and know me are going to know that it's coming from a place of like pure acceptance of my giftings and talents. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. And that's taken me a long time to get to that spot. But I think it's an important spot to get to. So
I think just to kind of expand on that a little bit, like one of the things that I've found a theme through my life over the last, I don't know, maybe almost 15 years. Like I often have found people, they're always just joking with me, but they're always kind of saying, oh, Evan's perfect. And at first I would kind of laugh it off, but then once I started finding that theme, and this definitely is not me gloating, it comes into an insecurity of like, am I just trying to portray perfection because I'm afraid to not be perfect in any area, in every area? Like I have to be perfect in either. I'm like, it's so foreign to me, I have no idea, so I have no reason to even have any glimpse of perfection on it. But if I even have a tiniest inkling of an idea on it, I need to have perfection in that area. And like there's some friends of mine, and I know they were just joking, but after I had heard it enough times, that really started to weigh on me. It was like, am I not authentic? Am I afraid to be vulnerable and just show like, I'm really not that good? Or I'm okay. I'm just okay. I'm decent. I'm better than average. I'm definitely not perfect. Any of those, like, am I just afraid to show that? And
what do you think? Are you afraid to show that? Like asking yourself that question. I mean,
I definitely think so. I definitely am, because I don't want to be inadequate. I don't want to be average. I don't want to be not good enough. So I always found myself better than most, but like not quite good enough to be in the A pluses. I'm like a B plus or an A minus. You know what I mean? Like I'm there long enough to like kind of hang out with the A pluses, and it just
can't sustain it long enough, or
whatever it was, whether it's academics, athletics, whatever. Like we're close enough where we can like hang until it's like time to get down to roll our sleeves up and get down to the real work. And it's just like,
gotta go.
Yeah. I just couldn't cut the mustard. So.
so a lot of times it is kind of like we've talked before, even like a mask we hide behind, right? Like this is the mask I hide behind. And when we wash it off or pull it back, what is the layer that's behind all that, and just kind of figuring out where the real you is and what that looks like, and coming to terms with that and really loving and valuing that piece of you that you do bring to the table. And
I'm learning that. Like it's taken a lot of time, and you've done a huge amount of help with that. But I'm coming to terms with like being Evan, the real Evan, is pretty good. Like it's a lot of work to be that quote unquote perfect Evan. Like that's a lot of work.
So not like
it's
sustainable.
A lot of work, and so unsustainable. Like I don't feel good. I'm stressed out. Like just be me. Like you're either gonna like me or you won't. I'm either gonna be good enough or I won't. And
and you bring me to a question which I gotta ask this.
Yeah,
You're like, oh great, here we go. And I'm just curious if there was, if I was driving down Delmar and saw a billboard.
Oh, golly. Oh, gosh. I think I know where this is going.
Oh, I love this one. Yeah, I'm driving down the road, driving down Delmar, and I see a big billboard, and it could say several things about you. What would it say about the real Evan?
The real one?
The real one.
Not the perfect Evan?
Exactly.
Wow. Man, can I pass? No.
Nope.
I think if you're driving down the road,
It's got to be quick, straight to the point.
yeah, because you drive rather quickly. I think the billboard would say.
You think, or it would?
It would for sure. Big bold letters. It would say, Evan is authentic.
Ooh.
Evan is authentic.
Wow.
Which means nothing to, I think, most people because they don't know me. And
but it really resonates with you.
But it resonates with me because, like, I'm real. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot of people that probably I don't know. I don't want to answer for people. They probably don't like me for some reason. Like, I kind of do a lot of weird things. Like, I do a lot of the things that, like...
Yeah, I'm not going to get started on those.
Yeah, well,
I'm teasing.
I think I pick things that resonate with me. Like, I pick cycling. It's a weird sport. Like, ask any cyclist, we're all weird.
Yeah, you gotta dress up in spandex and have bubble butts.
We wear tight clothes and ride skinny tire bikes and goofy looking helmets, and our socks are high. It's just a weird sport.
Crazy tan line.
Yeah,
right.
We're in the U.S. where people play football and we do a certain thing, like.
But I hear you saying that's being authentic to you and what you really like.
Yeah, because
and important to you.
I understand the realness of that sport. Like, to me, that is the hardest sport on the planet. I think a lot of people will make a case for their sport, but, like, it really is. Like, it is a grueling, hard sport, and I love. My favorite races of that sport are the early spring classics, like the tough men and women, like just where the real grit comes out. And I love that. Like, I always found myself to be a grit kind of racer.
Yeah.
Might not be the strongest out of the bunch, but I'm not going to give up until there's just nothing left. You're going to have to beat me down.
Not that work you, right?
And
yeah. So I'm curious, after this billboard says Evan is authentic. Let's say the next billboard down the road a ways had one of your favorite quotes on it. What would that quote be? Is there like a favorite quote or just one that really resonates with you or that you just perhaps go to in times of trouble or just whenever?
Yeah, I listened to, like, kind of going back to Les Brown. He was very influential for me, and so I got two of them. This first one, I'm sorry, but I don't know who it belongs to, so I apologize. But I think a lot of people might be familiar with it. But it's progress, not perfection. It's progress over perfection. So, like, being perfect, it's not important. Do the work every day. Do something every day to be a little bit better than what you were yesterday.
Yeah.
And to me, that is perfection. That is mastery. Like, if I can just be a minute of a percentage better in some area than I was yesterday, I'm on track.
Yes.
That's success.
Yeah.
But the Les Brown one that I have for you is shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you land amongst the stars. And to me, that's that progress, not perfection. It's like, if I aim for because if I aim for the stars and miss, you know what I mean? So aim high, aim big, go really big.
Yeah.
And even if you fall a little short, things are great. You're still in this beautiful, magical, wonderful place. You know, like you're still way better off than you ever were. Like, think about it. Like, where do you come from? You shoot from the ground, right? So if you're landing amongst the stars, I mean, look at all that distance and that vastness that you've covered. So, and then you can kind of almost pick any other Les Brown quote, and they're all, you know, they all resonate with me, and I've said them and quoted them all about 1 million times. But yeah.
So how does that play out in your everyday life? Just real quick before we kind of get wrapped up tonight, you know, how does that play out in your life where you do, you know, just even if it's 1% or one little micro action to get to that goal where you want to be, like, how does that look practically for you in your life right now, like to get to your big goal? If you had to just kind of tell us, you know, perhaps today, what was the one thing you had to work on today?
Well, today was, I still have some cycling goals. I haven't hung that up all the way. I mean, I know I'm not going professional, and I'm okay with that. But I still have some goals. I still have some things I want to accomplish. So today it was a busy day. I had, working on stuff for the podcast, working on stuff for school. I had to go to work. I had to get in a big training ride today. So to me, I have a lot of irons in the fire. So for me, the progress was mentally, because not anything that I did today was really challenging, but doing them all today and doing them all well and giving them all my attention, all of my attention at that time, being present in that moment was the work.
Yeah, like being present where your feet are at.
Yeah,
I know I've heard us say that.
Be where your feet are. And once I've started listening to that quote and letting that kind of like resonate with me, be where your feet are, it has allowed me to do more things in a day, because normally I would look at this day, I wouldn't have slept last night. I wouldn't have been able to sleep a wink, because I would have had so much anxiety and so much stress about how am I going to do that? How am I going to get this done? What's it going to look like? How am I going to answer all these emails or answer all these, you know, people?
Yeah.
How am I going to get my reading done? How am I going to get work done? How am I going to do stuff for the podcast? How am I going to, get all my schoolwork done? It's just a lot going on, and it would have just wore me down, and I would have got half of it done, and the stuff I would have got done would have been poor. So
kind of going forward with that mindset, it sounds like it's really, really served you well in a lot of different areas of your life to make those changes so that you can start to reach towards that overarching goal of what you
absolutely.
really aim for.
Just slowing down, giving more energy, fuller energy into the thing that I'm doing right there. So if I do less things in a day, but I do them to the best of my ability, I feel a lot better about it, which gives me more motivation for the next day. So I got a lot of things going. I guess I think kind of what you asked about, like school is a big one. Our business is a big one. Getting clientele, coaching clientele. I'm coaching athletes still. I have a couple spots open for that. So, but the one, like, I'm pretty much full, but I got a couple available spots. So I love coaching my athletes. I love to give them as much attention as I can.
Yeah, you work a lot like on the physical piece and then the mental piece.
Yeah. It's fun. They all kind of require a little different amount. So to be able to have those conversations and just be that voice of positivity for them and challenge them. Like, I mean, a lot of times just to let them know, like, you can do this. You know, it looks really, really hard, but trust me, you'll do great.
Just having that like other person on your side, just really cheering you on and being that support for you too, and not just kind of saying, I think it goes deeper than you got this. There's like a a deeper meaning, deeper relationship even to that, you know, like it's not just words, but it's like this relationship piece too that's been developed.
Right. And then just one of the things that's helped me out quite a bit is just taking time to reflect on the day. So like a little gratitude journal. I mean, even if it's just a couple things, a few things, like what are 3 things that went well today?
Yeah.
And it's okay
that's been
to,
so
and then
helpful.
it's also okay to say what didn't go well today. Like, give me 3 positives and a negative. Like, and it doesn't have to necessarily be looked at as a failure. It's just like what didn't go right, and then what area or in what way today did you have to act in courage?
Okay.
So I think that's huge. Just be able to reflect on the day, like, wow, I really showed courage here today.
Yeah.
Or, these 3 things went really, really well. And I'm really grateful for that. So I think that's impactful.
Which, I was going to ask you kind of like what are daily practices of yours. And I know that has been something you and I have been working on, because it's like, I think a lot of times we know when somebody asks you, what didn't go well in your day, you can spout those off in really fast,
all
right?
of them. Yeah.
Yeah. But having to really sit and be mindful about like what went well for me in my day can sometimes take a little bit of time. At least it did for me in the beginning. And now it's coming a lot easier.
Even if it's the simple things, like, or what were the things I was grateful for? Like, it was sunny and 75 degrees today.
Green grass, right.
I'm grateful for that. Or, like, just
and to
all
see
the
what
fun
an impact
things,
it has on you too. Evan, if you could leave us with, just one piece of advice or just anything, for our listeners today, what would you say perhaps would be the most like impactful or little tidbit you'd want people to take away with them today? What would that be?
Yeah, a couple things. 2 really quick ones. 1, there's greatness inside of you. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely greatness inside of you. Yeah. Every single listener, every single person. And 2, view coaching or sports psychology, view that as a performance advantage. Like people talk about like performance enhancing drugs, like view the assistance of a life coach or a sports psychologist or anyone that's going to help challenge you on that mental aspect as performance enhancing. Mm-hmm. So almost if you are an athlete at any level, or if you aspire to anything at a higher level than where you are currently, if you want to get better at anything that you do, you should be asking yourself, why am I not utilizing the resources that are out there? Yeah. Professionals, trained people to help me, challenge me, be better than where I am now. You are at where you are at now because you are doing the things that you know to do.
Right.
So to do more, you need to know more or utilize those that know more. So exactly. I want to leave people with that. I think it's simple. Like if you go to the gym, get a trainer, get a personal trainer. If you're an athlete, like of course you get a coach, right? If I want to run faster, if I want to cycle faster, if I want to lift more, get a coach. If I want to be better in life, get a life coach.
Yeah, you're exercising that muscle, right? It's just
use it. It's out there. It's, I think, worth its weight in gold, and you'll not be disappointed from that. Like, obviously that's what we do, and that's a big proponent of ours. But whether you come see us or you go see another professional, find someone that fits you. Find someone that fits your personality, that you connect with and enjoy. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for leaving that with us today. Evan, where would you say we can find you at? On Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not that active on Twitter. I have the account, but I'm not that good at it. I'm pretty active on Instagram. You can find me at Evan_Blankenship at Instagram, and then Evan Blankenship on Facebook. And then I'm also kind of doing a lot of the Sound Mind Strategies Instagram stuff. So you can find me there, Sound Mind Strategies at Instagram, and then at Sound Mind Strategies on Facebook as well. And then I also have another fun account that I do for Cooper, our dog.
Cooper Tales.
It's fun. I enjoy an extra hobby and learning photography and photo editing and stuff there. So give him a follow. He would appreciate it. he or me, whatever. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening today. And, we just encourage you to, subscribe, share, leave a review for us. And, when you get a chance, head on over to Sound Mind Strategies website for more information on coaching services, and also check out, Evan's Facebook and Instagram handles as well. And so we will all see you next time.
Peace.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Just a quick heads up, next week's episode, Evan and I will be doing a deeper delve into the topic of fear. So this will definitely be something that you'll want to tune into. A couple housekeeping things. We are thinking of rolling out our episodes on either Tuesday or Wednesday afternoons. So we'd love to hear your feedback on when you prefer your podcast content. Be sure to also follow us on all forms of social media, including Strava, as we'd love to hear what you're up to and what goals you are working towards. Thank you again, everyone, for your support, and we look forward to hearing from you next week.